Looking to the Don by Scott Mason. He took the job knowing that he was inheriting one of the biggest financial messes we'd ever seen. He assured us from the start that while things looked bleak, he had a plan to get us out of the hole that his predecessor had dug for him. It's not going to happen overnight, so I don't want any illusions, he said, as he explained that while he would actively look to better the immediate future, he would not do it at the expense of the long term. He told us things might have to get worse before they got better, that a bad year or two would likely be unavoidable, but he promised he would not abandon his plan, and in the process, he would bring a once great powerhouse back from the brink. Some partisans doubted him and complained about the short-term pain. Others said his plan was too optimistic and could never work. But he stuck to his guns, and sure enough, less than 2 years after taking over, he had pulled off what many thought could never be done. One of the worst fiscal situations in recent memory had been reversed. The man who rode into town offering hope had actually delivered on his promise. I wish I was saying those words about Barack Obama, but I'm not. I'm saying them about New York Knicks president Donnie Walsh. If only the president of our country thought more like him, I'd probably be a lot more optimistic about our country's future. Now, I know what you're thinking. What on earth does the NBA have to do with our country's financial woes? Well, allow me to explain. The New York Knicks' financial problems began in the year 2000 under general manager Scott Layden when they traded star center Patrick Ewing to the Houston Rockets. Yes, Ewing was getting older and he had reportedly requested a trade, but due to the way salary structures work in the NBA, the Knicks had to take a variety of bad long-term contracts to offset what Ewing was making. Let's equate this to the meltdown of the financial institutions and the mortgage market, as it was what started the downward spiral. The following 2 seasons saw the Knicks fall to a below 500 team as a desperate Layden further destroyed the team's financial flexibility by giving a franchise record $100 million to overrated guard Allen Houston, trading a chance to draft future All-Star Amari Stoudemire for has-been forward Antonio McDyess, and trading away some of the bad contracts he'd received in the Ewing deal for ones that were even worse. Let's equate this to TARP, as instead of taking the short-term pain, Layden tried to prop up a failed model. Needless to say, with the Knicks now a laughingstock and the fans calling for his head, Scott Layden was finally fired in December 2003, roughly 3.5 years after the Ewing trade that started the whole mess. I think we can safely equate Layden to George W. Bush. Layden's replacement was Isaiah Thomas, whose charm with the media and history as a great player made many believe in him despite never having achieved any success as an executive. Almost immediately, he made a huge move, acquiring New York native and former All-Star Stephon Marbury from the Phoenix Suns. While Marbury's arrival added excitement, some were skeptical of the move as despite his tremendous talent, Marbury had never won a playoff series and was not considered an elite player you could build a team around. Short-term, the Knicks eked into the playoffs that year and were swept by the New Jersey Nets in the first round, but long-term, they suffered immensely as Marbury killed the Knicks' monetary flexibility and stripped them of much-needed future draft picks. Let's equate Marbury with the $787 billion stimulus package. Over the following 4 seasons, Thomas continued mortgaging the team's future and made the financial mistakes that Layden was responsible for look tame in comparison. He took on major contracts of over-the-hill veterans like Steve Francis and career losers like Jerome James, traded away what amounted to 2 top 10 picks for Eddie Curry, whose lack of work ethic and big contract made him a huge bust, and hired coaching legend Larry Brown, only to fire him and buy him out with nearly $20 million a year later. He also managed to be the center of a sexual harassment lawsuit brought against the team, all the while ballooning the payroll out of control and delivering the worst on-the-court results in franchise history. After an unbearable 5.5 years during which the team had become the biggest joke in sports, Isaiah Thomas was fired in April 2008. Sexual harassment charges aside, with programs like the GM bailout, his current fiscal budget, his doubling down on the Bush foreign policy, and possible future programs like healthcare reform and cap and trade, President Obama is currently on his way to being equated to Isaiah Thomas. After Thomas's firing, the aforementioned Donnie Walsh came in with the intent of reversing the damage. He traded away some of the team's best players, including Jamal Crawford and Zach Randolph, found creative ways to dump overpriced veterans like Malik Rose, and after less than 2 years, he has cleared over $30 million in cap space, enough to pursue superstar free agents this summer like LeBron James, Dwayne Wade, Chris Bosh, or the previously mentioned Amari Stoudemire, and finally turned the Knicks back into a long-term contender again. In comparing the Knicks to our current national financial problems, it seems clear that barring an unforeseen change of course, to paraphrase Congressman Ron Paul, instead of the bad year or two we could have had, all of the intervention into the economy and doubling down on failed economic programs will lead us to a bad decade, just as was the case with the Knicks. So my question is, who is going to be the one to clean up this mess? Who will be our Donnie Walsh? Who will finally level with us and tell us that we will have to suffer for a year or two while simultaneously coming up with a real plan to restore our long-term economic viability? Will it be Ron Paul? Will it be Rand Paul? Will it be Gary Johnson? Or maybe it will be Donnie Walsh himself. His contract with the Knicks runs out in 2 years, just in time for him to run. And if he signs LeBron James this summer, maybe he can be Walsh's VP. Walsh James 2012. I'm loving it already.